What is going on, 156 Nation? Welcome back to episode of First and 56. Rondo Griffin, Anthony Gulick, no Marcus Martin on this one. Gulick, it's week 3. We normally don't even really have shows like this early in the season. But I guess it's something we got to talk about because the state of this team right now is, I don't want to say like it's unknown, but it's very confusing of exactly what the goal or the end goal is or what even is planned for the rest of this year. So, we've got a lot of topics to really get into. But, first things first, what'd you make up of the last 2 weeks?
Oh man, it's definitely been a ride. I'll say that much. I didn't get a chance to recap the Packers game, but that was just a classic Colts game where nobody shows up. Offense, defense, special teams, coaches, nobody showed up. So that was just a fun game to experience. But I just feel like right now, teams got really no identity. It's just really hard to establish one when you're so up and down. Quite frankly, the defense they've been bad, but offensively, it's been very inconsistent. First game offense was cooking. They didn't cook against Green Bay, and then the defense, the rushing yards, history, the numbers. It's definitely a crazy stat line that I don't want to talk about. So I think this is kind of the perfect week to establish your own identity. If they really have, that type of DNA in them, which I think they do. But you're coming back home. It's week 3, home fans. They should give you some energy. But first 2 weeks, it's been rough.
Yeah, it's definitely not the start you really expect to happen or have go on. Obviously, week 1, we kind of get that. We kind of chalked it up as a loss. We haven't won a game in week 1 in the past 10, 11 years. You kind of get that. It's the Packers game for me where it's just like, all right, I understand it's, kind of normally your mindset is, oh, it's week 2. You don't need to push a panic button. But you kind of need to push panic button when you lose a game like that in the fashion that you lose it with all the aspects we had going into said game. They're down their franchise quarterback, forced to rely on a guy who has never thrown for over 100 yards in a game. Receiver room over there, very questionable. Who's the one? Who's the alpha? A game that easily should have been cut and dry, a victory for us. Because everyone basic game, but everyone knew they were just going to run the ball. We said it in our group chat. I said expect a Tim Tebow game, which you got. He threw 14 passes. At one point in the game, they had 20 rushes and 2 passes. They were clearly going to just pound the rock. To where I was to the point, like, look, just put 9 guys in a box. Which, yes, it makes no sense, but if we lose to Malik Willis's arm, we take that. The fact that you didn't lose it, the fact that you lost in the way of the most expectable way is the idiocracy for me, and like you said, it goes to the coaching, just like, what are you thinking, whatnot, which leads to the argument. So let's start with him. Gus Bradley, defensive coordinator. Now, again, originally a Frank Reich hire. Steichen keeps him on for another year. Now, we've talked about us not necessarily liking him. Very passive style, only sends forward, likes to sit back in coverage. Now, Gulick, I said this on the preview for this game. That defense is out. It's outdated. You're not going to beat anybody with that. And, my wild claim of that, look, I don't care if you got both Watt brothers, Aaron Donald, and one of the Boses on the line. They're not getting home every single time. You've got to send more guys. But, Gus Bradley, what do you take from him?
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of Gus Bradley. I think that in certain situations, the scheme does look good in certain situations, but you can't run it 90% of the time. I know I get that he probably mixes stuff up sometimes. And when it's working, like, it's working. I'll say that. We've seen him for 3 years. I've seen it. Actually, you were there too. We've seen it with our own eyes, shutting down Mahomes in person with Matt Ryan. Dude, that defense that year, basically same core, but like, they were cooking. No Darius Leonard that game. Zaire Franklin in there. Sometimes when it works, it works. But as you just said, it's outdated and people figure it out. And once they start picking you apart, there's no going back. And we're kind of at that point where there's no going back. So either something has to be changed, or I just feel like there has to be a personnel change somewhere. You fired Nate Ollie, that you didn't bring him back. You brought in a new defensive line coach, and they're still not getting to the quarterback. Like, I'm just not really feeling what's going on right now, scheme wise and personnel wise. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Moving forward, but I just think it's a lot of questionable decision making on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm also not gonna exclude the players because it's not just a scheme. The players have also sucked. I mean, Buckner's been good, which it sucks that he's on IR now. But the linebackers, they've sucked with a capital S. The corners, we already know we needed corner help, and we're shorthanded there too. But nobody really gets a majority of the blame. Just everybody gets the blame as a whole.
Right, and so it leads to kind of the age-old argument of talent versus coaching. I mean, you need both. Obviously, you can point to one, whatever, but coaching is supposed to elevate said talent. And so like you alluded to, of that, the corner room, the secondary in general, really, obviously, it's very young. It wasn't addressed over the offseason, not necessarily during the draft. So you roughly brought the band back together. And like I said, last year's band wasn't that great, and so it kind of leads to the thing we're saying of that when it comes at that point, it comes to coaching, you've got to put the players in a position to succeed. And, like I said on the preview, when you just send four and sit in coverage, like, I call that vanilla defense. That's practice defense. Any quarterback can dice that up. You can only cover for so long. If you give a quarterback time, he's going to find an open guy. It's long been proven, and then like you said, but like when it works, because obviously, you shut down Mahomes last year at the time they were number one offense, and I believe we held them to like, 18 points, something like that. They barely touched the end zone once, I think, in that game. But you get to the situation where just like, oh, so okay, you don't have, the athletes, go to that year where we shut down Mahomes. Obviously we had Stephon Gilmore, one of the premier corners in the league. You had a better secondary than what you have right now. But knowing that, then you've got to put them in better positions to succeed. If you've got a whole bunch of young guys, you got to pressure the quarterback then. And I'm not sorry, but like I said before, if you have 4 Hall of Famers on the line, they're not getting home every single time. You've got to send more. You've got to take some chance. You got to take some risks. If you do that sit back crap, we're going to get what happened to us against Green Bay, where they run all over us. They barely score, but we couldn't score either. Sometimes, as we've seen, maybe for the entirety of the Chris Ballard era, the defense has taken the lead of this team. We've been, for the most part, a defense-first team. And when your defense isn't really necessarily doing anything to stop opposing offenses, we're not winning many shootouts.
Yeah, shootouts. That's a whole nother topic of discussion in terms of shootouts, because with the defense not showing up, like, you don't want Anthony Richardson having to just carry the team every single week. I mean, you want to put him in a good position to succeed, and the defense has got to help out. And I think that the Buckner injury might have occurred after you guys did your recap episode, but man, like, that's just such a tough blow. Like, I would argue this season, at least, we already knew he was in like our top 3 best players, but this season he's been our best player in the previous 2 games. He was actually getting after the quarterback from the inside. Mm-hmm. So, not having him for the next 4 games, like, that's going to be tough. So, if the scheme doesn't get changed, if we do that sit back crap because we got Taven Bryan in there, nose tackle, like, is Anthony Richardson going to have to drop 30 points a game of offense? I think we had, like, say 16 points of offense last week, which was a down game, but you don't want to have him having to put on a show every single week. Obviously you would like that, but like, Josh Allen and Mahomes don't go out there and play near perfect games every week. So, you're really putting a lot of pressure on a 21-year-old kid with 6 starts by not getting off the field. Like, it's crazy. Like, I honestly, I can't remember the last time there was a 3-and-out besides like at the end of the game there when Malik Willis screwed up and we had to went for a Hail Mary with like 30 seconds left on the clock. But like besides that, like I don't really think there were that many 3-and-outs. Like are 3-and-outs still a thing to the Colts anymore? Like the defense has to step up. They have to.
Yeah, and you bring up Anthony Richardson, obviously, his youth, his lack of starts, his lack of experience, as you will, and it brings to the point of that when you have a young quarterback who you're trying to build up to be the guy, the last thing you want to do, like I said, is put the pressure that he needs to play hero ball or we lose, and we've seen his biggest discrepancy coming into the draft was his short range accuracy or his accuracy as a whole, you know. And so when you're talking about how he's going to be the guy and we're going to have growing pains and you have to wait for it, when you put the pressure on that, yeah, we give him another score, you got to go put us back in the game consistently every single time he steps on the field. How is that helping? How is it helping build him up? Because like you say, the Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Herberts, they didn't have to do that when they were coming up. They didn't have to play hero ball in order for their team to win the game. And funnily enough, Andrew Luck had to play hero ball. So it might just be a Colts thing, and it's not going to work. Anthony Richardson is not equipped to play hero ball right now. Could he get there? Sure. But like you said, we're talking about the youngest starting quarterback in the league. You drafted him number 4, and we knew there was going to be growing pains purely because of the accuracy and his lack of starts, his lack of play. Not to mention his rookie season shortened to 4 games because of injury. So he missed out on 13 games of rep last year. That's huge, especially when you take from last year where we're a play away from playing in the postseason with a backup quarterback. So you have us coming into this year that we're a quarterback away and we've already drafted him. So we just need to get some spare pieces and we'll be rock solid ready to go. But again, early on, that's not the start you want to see. And statistically, when you get into it, if we were to lose this game, our percentages for making a postseason drop to the single digits historically. So it's quite literally a must win. But on top of it, as you mentioned, losing Buckner for the past 5 years that we've had him, I think all years but one he led us in sacks. And then the 1 year he didn't, he was like a half a sack behind. He's been the defensive voice, the defensive anchor. He's been Mr. Consistent when it comes to the defense. And again, for the course of maybe his NFL career, you could argue 1, maybe 2 interior defensive linemen are better than him. And that's Aaron Donald and Chris Jones.
Yep. And, it's really funny, too, because he's never missed a game ever with the Colts. And this is quite the time for him to get hurt. I mean, it just seems like a perfect storm of injuries right now. You lose Brents, you lose Downs, who's a big part of the offense. He hasn't played yet this year, and then Buckner goes down. Man, like this is just quite the time for him to get hurt. And the defensive line is already thin, man. It's already thin. Oh yeah, because Samson Ebukam got hurt too.
Yep, he's already done for the year. So
and that's another situation here too. I love Latu. He's gonna be a great player in this league, but he hasn't gotten his first career sack yet. And I'm not putting pressure on him, but I'm just trying to say, like, Samson was supposed to be the starter, and Latu was supposed to come in on third down situations and just try to get after the passer. But Samson got hurt. You're putting more pressure on the rookie. Like, we just want to, chill on these young guys a little bit, but just with the unfortunate situation of football, really, just got to lean on your guys. So it's just like a nightmare of a start, in my opinion. Even though the first game was a pretty close game, the Colts were a few plays away, but this is just not how you respond after a tough loss like that. Week 1, that's just not how you respond. So hopefully week 3, this week we're coming back home. Like I said, we need a little more juice hopefully they bring the juice. So we'll see.
Yeah, and just real quick on the, I love that you brought up Latu obviously, and his his rough start, but being a rookie kind of thrust in there. Trick, well, maybe not a trick question. You might know the answer. Guess who's making their return to Lucas Oil? Before I make it clear, player. Guess who's making their return to Lucas Oil?
Plays for the
You,
Bears.
yeah, for the Bears. You loved this guy,
This Muhammad.
Matt Pryor.
Oh God.
Guess who's
Oh
starting at
my
left
God.
guard?
Oh my God. And they got
So
him at guard, which is hilarious
yeah,
too.
so if there is not a time for Latu to get his first sack,
God bless, man.
so
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I did. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did watch Chicago against Houston Sunday night because I wanted to see what they have, and Caleb Williams doesn't look, like I mean, like this world beater yet. And the only reason why I'm kind of holding to that standard is because some people, not everybody, but some people said he was like a better prospect than Luck was, or just as good. And
mhm.
when obviously we know when Luck came in, I mean he hit the ground running, and it was really good. But Caleb has not looked great so far. So this could either be he's in hell because Matt Pryor's playing offensive line, or this could be his coming out party because we still can't get it together. So, but it just starts with stopping the run. Like Joe Mixon, what are we doing with that? And then Green Bay just used everybody. It wasn't even just
Yeah,
like two running. It was like four different guys, four
I
different
believe they
guys.
had
And then,
8 different players with a carry.
yeah, and then now we got DeAndre Swift and Herbert coming in. And Herbert's actually a decent player himself. So, they actually have some decent running backs. And I'm more worried. Like, I would honestly, I swear to God, man, I never thought I would say this as a Colts fan because we played Derrick Henry for so many years, and even we weren't worried about stopping the run against him. But I'm more afraid of the running backs than the freaking quarterbacks this year. Like, it's crazy. All they're doing is just handing the ball off, and and they're just opening up everything else for everybody. So I don't know. I just fear the run game so much right now, but it's like you said, Matt Pryor's playing. You got to take advantage of that, man. You got to.
Right? And just like, isn't it so backwards of how far we've come? Because before, like you said, we've played against Prime Henry for
Yes.
years, and I think he only topped 100 yards on us like once or twice.
Yep.
So like a guy at the time where it was the best back in the league, and you held him in check consistently. And then now you've got the Joe Mixon. Look, Joe Mixon's a good running back, but if I put him side to side with Derrick Henry, I'm taking Derrick Henry 10 times out of 10.
Right.
Same goes for Josh Jacobs. He's a great running back, but Henry's better. Maybe not right now, but prime Henry, better than both of those guys easily, easily. And you're getting diced up by those two guys, and especially obviously last week in a situation where everyone knew the quarterback's not throwing the ball. You
Yep.
know, that was a game where you and I could play quarterback for Green Bay.
Yep. That's true.
So right, and so to quote Adrian Reyes, because I recorded a preview with him, he said the key thing with week 3 is to not let Caleb Williams have his "I'm here" moment. Because like you just said, he's looked bad these past couple of weeks. Has a win thanks to the defense, really.
True.
Because he didn't throw a touchdown again. I think he only threw for 99 yards in that win. That was all defense that carried.
Yep.
Hasn't looked great. Keenan Allen is officially out for this week, so he's down to DJ Moore, and Odunze is questionable. We don't know necessarily his status just yet as I'm recording this anyway. So he's down one of his premier weapons. He hasn't looked good. And obviously we mentioned DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert. DeAndre Swift hasn't looked good this year either. So you've got two guys coming in badly with us missing our best interior defensive lineman. But Gulick, how important is it for you, as Adrian said it, as I'll pose question to you, how important is it to not let Caleb Williams have his "I'm here" moment?
Once again, he's a rookie quarterback. Introduce him to the league, man. Introduce him to the league. Caleb Williams, he hasn't really felt it yet. He hasn't really felt it. I mean, Houston, he played okay Um, but I don't really think he's had like a real welcome to the league moment yet, and this literally is the time for it. But like I said, this is important because of how bad our defense has been. This maybe could be his coming out party if we don't take care of business. So it's just a oh such a wild card of a game. Seriously, such a wild card of a game. But I have this weird theory. Defense aside, I have this weird theory that young quarterbacks play really well at home and not well on the road. Um, and I mean, obviously, I'm being sarcastic here, but um, I think Anthony Richardson plays very well at home, and I didn't expect him to be great on the road. So even though it was against Malik Willis, the only leeway I'm going to give him is that it's a 6 start. He's on the road in a hostile environment. That was their home opener because they played in Brazil the first week, so that stadium was rocking. I mean, this kid started 18 games since high school or something like that. I mean, I think he's going to be fine at home. At home, he's good. Even in the games he didn't finish last year, um, he still played well in those games at home. And it's really hard for teams to keep up with him at home. So, if this turns into an offensive scoring battle, let's do it. Is he going to outscore us? I mean, we last time we did a show, we were making our picks against the spread and everything, and I think I'm not sure who picked who in the Saints and Cowboys game. I definitely picked the Cowboys. I'm pretty sure, but
I think I had the Saints. I think I had the Saints with the points.
You definitely did, but that just turned into a scoring battle, and both defenses really didn't show up at first. I mean, the Saints ended up winning big, but it's like, all right, who's going to score more? Let's keep doing it. Can Caleb Williams keep up with Anthony Richardson? I know for damn sure he can't.
Mm-hmm.
I know for damn sure. So if this turns into a hero ball battle, screw it, let's do it. But you got to just do everything you can to make sure that he doesn't get his moment against us too. I mean, you don't want to go. I mean, think about this long term too. You don't want to go into week 4 without a win, right?
Yeah.
Week 4, I will be there in person, making the drive from PA to Indy, playing against my hometown Steelers here, which I can't stand. I can't stand anything Pittsburgh, but they have a great defense. They get after the quarterback, and then guess where we're going week 5? We're going to sunny Jacksonville, Florida, and we already know we're not winning that one. So are we gonna go the first 5 games without a win? Like if you don't capitalize on this, so like you got to get this train moving now. We got to get this going like now. Like this is potentially a make or break game in the season. I hate to say that 2 games in because this team has started 1-5 before and made the playoffs, but like, dude, like the schedule's not getting any easier. It ain't getting any easier.
And funny that you bring up, obviously, Richardson on the road at a home opener. If you want to get technical, that was kind of his first real road game because the only other game he played on the road was against the Texans, and I believe he was out of the first quarter. So if you want to get real technical, that was his first road game ever as a professional. So, I'm with you where he's obviously, it should be easier for him at home. But, we talked about him enough. I guess let's get into the Ballard conversation. Because so we're at year 8 of his tenure, and you really only have one playoff win to show for it. Yep. Yes, we are aware of the argument of the quarterback argument. Andrew Richardson is the first quarterback to have on opening day in back-to-back years since Andrew Luck. And I think that was even then, I was back in 2014, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but 8 years in, one playoff win to show for it. And we've kind of seen, I guess, 2 different ways of tackling team building, because we've had Grigson attack free agency and it not work, and then we've had Ballard we have now where he goes pure draft, and it's like, does it work? Sure, but you leave us in situations like right now where the secondary is all young guys, and I like, not to be rude, but it's like none of them are really that good. They're probably not starting on any other team.
True.
So I'll pose it this way. scale of 1 to 10, or if you want to go scorching hot, freezing cold, how hot is his seat right now before the Bears game?
I would say if we're looking at like a scale of 1 to 10, I would say we're about a 6.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, you know how Irsay is. When people thought his seat was hot before, it really wasn't. But
Yeah.
I will say the only lenience or leeway that they're going to give him is because of Anthony Richardson, because of the quarterback. He's young, got to give him time or whatever. But he's the one making the decisions in free agency. He's the one that's keeping coaches around. I get that Irsay plays a part, but you know, in terms of your wallet, that also goes for coaches too, not just players. You know, when Brian Flores was a free agent, why didn't we go after him? I mean, you talked about earlier the whole theory and argument behind coaching versus talent. Minnesota has no superstars on their defense anymore. Zero. I mean, they have Stephon Gilmore now as free agent, but he's old. He's serviceable. But they have 0 stars on their defense because their best player just went to Houston, Hunter. And their scheme is nuts. Like, we saw them just go out and beat the 49ers, and Purdy went up to Flores after the game and said, dude, your scheme is crazy. And opposing quarterbacks don't do anything against Minnesota. That's been going on since last year. That guy was a free agent. Like, that's the type of guy, like, I hate to say it, but you got to open up your checkbook for that guy. I mean, you could also make the argument with Vic Fangio, whether people love and hate Vic Fangio, but he was a free agent this offseason as well. And Philadelphia opened up their big checkbook, signed him. So if you're not going to go, I mean, if you're not going to go out and get guys, I feel like the coaching has to be there. And I don't get it with the coaching. And the guys, but the guys that keep him employed is Chris Ballard. So it's just so hard to say what he's gonna. I mean, how hot his seat is, because Irsay loves him, but man, it's just, if this team wins, let's think bare minimum, they win 6-7 games this season. I mean, the conversation is like scorching at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because you won 9 games last year with a backup quarterback and essentially the same defense. Like, it's already starting to get warm now, but like, it's going to be scorching if you don't win at least 8. And that's not even saying much. 8 games is not even saying much. So I guess we'll have more of an answer 3/4 of the way of the year. But right now, like, it's not looking good for Ballard. And that's my opinion. I've been a Ballard defender on this show, but you have to hold him critical in these moments. And I don't know about some of this decision making.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of Frank Reich in the back end and Jacoby Brissett when he was the quarterback in the back end.
Yeah.
To where it's just like, I can make some strong excuses for you, but on your end, you're not really even showing any like flashes to where I could say, see, right there. I mean, we've talked about his draft acumen and his draft capital, but sure, you're like, you hit on Nelson, obviously, you hit on Pittman, you hit on Taylor, you hit on Blackman, but it's like, but then what? You know what I mean? You're sure, has he hit on guys? Yes, but then let's use this year. Secondary was an absolute must and need. You only draft guys on day 3, and none of them make the final roster. Now, like I said, day 3 is it's a dart throw day. You know what I mean? Like, if you hit there, great. If you don't, whatever. You know what I mean? Obviously, you get lucky, like Zaire Franklin, like an EJ Speed, even though I was right. But like, but the top half of the draft, you know what I mean? Like, you're sure, are you hitting? Sure, but you're not hitting at positions where we need it. You and I, we discussed it. We like the Lutu pick, but you and I were thinking more the corner, and they were there. They were all there. Obviously, we went defense first, but they were there and available. I haven't necessarily kept up with how they've been doing so far in this when it comes to this season.
They've been playing. I know that for sure.
right? But I
Interception
mean,
that was
I'll
playing.
right, but like I'll just reference yesterday's game, and sure, not necessarily we had a chance at getting him, but Christian Gonzalez shut down Garrett Wilson, shut him down, and that's a same guy where he only played like 6 games his rookie year and then got injured, was done for the year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You know, Reek Woolen in Seattle, 5th round pick. In the year he was drafted, I circled him and he was my next EJ Speed. He looks pretty good. Obviously, we weren't going to get a Sauce Gardner. You know what I mean? You weren't going to get Patrick Surtain the second. But just like how young quarterbacks have taken over this league, we finally got one. Young corners taking over this league as well. And Kenny Moore is doing nothing but getting older. You got Juju, but look, your best ability in sports is availability. While I love the pick, I think he's gonna be a CB1 in the future. 2 years in, and he hasn't played much.
Nope.
You know, it's like Jelani Woods on the other side, where you and I both think he could be tight end one of the future, but again, he's not there. And so, sure, you can't fully hold an injury against a general manager. You know, that obviously it does eventually come down to the athlete getting hurt. But then, you know, what's the backup plan though? You know what I mean? Because like the conversation always comes in depth. I say, okay, Juju goes down. Who's behind him? Nobody relevant. Jelani goes down. The tight end room is a whole bunch of guys who, just like how we said, with our secondary, definitely none of them are starting on any other team in the league.
Hell no.
You know, barely. I think Granson at best might make a roster somewhere else. You know, and like obviously I've had the argument of that you don't need a Travis Kelce, but you need a Jack Doyle. You need someone who can at least just play in the game, would start on most teams
and catch,
but more importantly, do things that don't show up on a stat sheet. All I've seen so far from this tight end room is drop passes, slipping, and missing blocks.
Slipping has been bad too. Ugh.
Right? So, and you know, and like yourself as well, you know, I've been a Ballard defender, but I'm with you as well, is that it's starting to get hard to defend keeping you employed. Now, I'm not under the belief that, you know, he gets, unless we just like fully crash out this season, you know, I don't think he's getting fired. Yeah, you know what I mean? But I believe I said it coming in that you need to host a playoff game this year. You know,
I think
just a winning record isn't good enough. You need to host a playoff game, which AKA win the division. Otherwise, you know, like, then we're going to call for your head, and I'm not defending you anymore. Just very, very similar to Frank Reich.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just such a hard conversation to have. Because he's done good things, he's done bad things. But to be honest, you know, he is, in terms of like questionable decisions and in that regard, it's more of like just him not doing anything. It's not even the fact of like him making the wrong decision. Yeah. Just him not doing anything. Like, it's I mean that's just gotta be like the best way to put it. And I will say, I'll give him this though. He has reached out to free agents in the past. I mean, especially this year. I mean, I just talked about Hunter from the Vikings playing for Houston now. You know, we reached out to Hunter in free agency, and obviously he chose Houston because he's from Houston, and then because of other things like, you know, Texas had no state tax, so he's getting all of his money and he's getting taxed here. So, and then like the same thing with Justin Simmons. Obviously, the Colts reached out to Justin Simmons, and he went out to Atlanta instead. But, you know, make something happen. That's all I'm saying. Make something happen. It just makes me wonder, like, how are other teams just making trades? I mean, free agency, two sides have to make a deal, like I just said. Mm-hmm. But we see guys going for like cheap prices. in terms of trades. I mean, what did Matthew Judon get traded for? Like a
Day
fourth
three
round
pick,
pick,
I think. Yeah, it was like a day 3 pick.
or like a day 3 pick?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and like, you know, like they're like established veterans who are going for like, you know, cheap prices. And I don't want to hear the excuse anymore from Colts fans who are like, "Oh, he's old and he's going to be a 1-year rental." Well, Stephon Gilmore was old in a 1-year rental and he was good. So if we did that, why can't we do it again? Just to
And then
see
not
how it goes.
right, and then not only that, it's just like, you talk about age or whatever. It's like we had a conversation about it earlier of, look, don't discredit experience. You know what I mean? Like, so obviously, yeah, Gilmore was up to age when he was there with us. Gilmore also has a Super Bowl ring. So he could go to everyone in that roster and be like, you see this thing we're playing for? I got one. I know how to get there. You know?
Right.
So Judon, in that case specifically, he has one. He can have that same conversation. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, Justin Simmons, he doesn't have one, but you're talking about Justin Simmons, that's an all pro player.
Yeah.
So you like, don't discredit the value of experience more than anything. And even then, who is it? Actually, I'll use Pittman. Hasn't Pittman said that he gives a lot of his growth thanks to T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, he does.
So
you bet.
Yeah, so T.Y. Hilton's last kind of explosive year with us, which was also Pittman's rookie year, and we've seen Pittman do nothing but grow. You know what I mean? So that past experience can help a lot, which to bring it full circle gives me more confidence in anything of that Richardson figuring it out. Because who's his backup quarterback, ladies and gentlemen? That's Joe Flacco. Don't forget, he had Lamar Jackson come up behind him. Flacco's also got a ring. So, and you best believe that Anthony Richardson, the way he's at least talking when it comes to press conference and everything, I'd be hard pressed to believe that he's not in like Joe Flacco's ear 25/7. You know what I mean? So, in terms of him figuring it out, that's going to be a patience game. But in terms of Ballard, I'm with you. It's just like, you got to go do something. For Grigson, for all the hate that we had with him and we didn't necessarily like him, at least he went out and attempted to do stuff. LaRon Landry, Devin Funchess, Andre Johnson. He at least went out and kind of got guys. It didn't work, but we saw the effort and, he picked up some pieces. Ballard and this whole, keep your own, build your own thing, that doesn't really work in football. It's like it works to an extent, but then it goes to like we said in the coaching argument. Let's go look at KC. It's a reason why Steve Spagnuolo ain't going nowhere, True. And teams have tried to poach him.
Yep,
and he's a big reason why they're so good. He got L'Jarius Sneed paid. L'Jarius Sneed, while sure we would have loved him on our team, he would have been an upgrade. He's not nothing special at corner. You know what I mean? Like, he's never going to lead the league in interceptions, whatever. He's not going to win any All-Pro awards. But Kansas City, he was looking pretty damn good.
He was. Yeah. It's just, man. I just think even if they're just not going to be superstar players, just vets, just like you talked about, vets are so important. Like, who could use a vet right now? And I love Pittman. He's the OG, which he freaking shouldn't be because he's like 25 or 26. But who needs a vet more than anybody right now? It's freaking Adonai Mitchell. That dude stopping because he doesn't want to take hits is crazy to me. And I get that you can blame the quarterback on that, whatever. But like a critical part in that game too was right before the half ended when there was like a minute left, when we're driving down the field in the first half and it's like 3rd and 8, dude's wide open, catch and it just hits his hands. And then we got a punt, but he could have ran an extra 5-6 yards and then we're like in business there. Like that was a big part in the game. And then later in the game, he's wide open. Like the kid, this kid's frustrating the hell out of me right now because he's such a damn good football player. Like, we missed him in week 1. Anthony Richardson did miss him, but he's winning his matchups. He really is. But if he had T.Y. Hilton in his ear right now, like, oh my God, that would be insane. And I'm not even talking about just T.Y. Hilton right now. Like, even if you brought in some type of veteran, like somebody washed up who's not even going to play much, like,
Jarvis Landry.
yeah, like Jarvis
There.
Landry or something like that, just like a culture changer like that. Like, if you just had somebody like that in his ear, I mean, these guys just benefit from that, man. So it's just little things like that that you don't think about. But Chris Ballard's just like, yeah, they'll figure it out. But at some point, you have to like have veterans. I mean, all these guys who make it to the Hall of Fame, they don't they never say that they made it there alone. Like everybody in their Hall of Fame speeches credit all the people who got them there.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously people credit coaching, but they like almost everybody has a mentor. But when it's all young kids, how you gonna learn? I mean, it's like it's just like in basketball. Like I'm a big Thunder fan. I mean, the Thunder, found out the hard way this year. I mean, but the Thunder had no vets and it was all young kids. With no vets, you find out the hard way. And obviously, it's a different situation. But like, you need at least one or two vets, man. I mean, we're seeing it with the Pacers. I seen them there, like in person when the Pacers were banging the anvil. James Johnson was there. Most of like casual NBA fans don't even know who he is. But he's been in the league for like 10 years. He's a bench warmer, but he's there just to set the tone, man. He's not there to score 10 points, but he's there to sit on a bench. Same thing with like Udonis Haslem in Miami. He was just running cardio at practice, but he wasn't like there to play. But he's there just to mentor the guys. Bringing T.Y. Hilton back, that wouldn't hurt. And I mean, I love Reggie Wayne too. Reggie Wayne's been dope in the receiver room, but like,
It's different when it comes from a guy in a uniform than it does from a guy with a clipboard.
exactly. Like Kato June and Reggie, that's dope. I'm not excluding that at all, but like, you need like somebody who can suit up and really get down with it. I mean, think about this too. I mean, even though he was washed and we made fun of him, Julio Jones was playing with AJ Brown. You think like Julio Jones didn't do anything with the Titans, but that was AJ Brown's year before he got paid with Philly. I mean, you think that he wasn't in his ear all the time, like, hey, what would you do here? What would you do here? Watch them film together. I mean, there's little things like that that people do not think about.
While you're using Julio Jones, remember who his vet was when he got drafted? It was Roddy White.
Yep.
So like there's a totem pole thing to it. You know what I mean? Like it helps. And former players in general always call it a brotherhood, and that's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? You need that veteran presence to help you. Nobody figures it out on his own. And if you want to use the Andrew Luck argument, Andrew Luck had Jim Caldwell, who coached Manning for years. So that don't really count.
Yeah, that's true. And he also got coached by Jim Harbaugh in college. So,
and even then, he came into having Reggie Wayne, Hall of Fame receiver, and Reggie Wayne. So
exactly, but like who coached Anthony Richardson in Florida, and his best receiver was Ricky Pearsall. Like, what? Kyle Pitts was gone by the time Anthony Richardson was there. So I don't know. You just need some type of presence, man. Some type of presence. The checkbook might hurt a little bit, but you need it. You really do need it. I mean, my last point here. I mean, Jack Doyle and Ty. I mean, they did wonders for the team. Especially playing with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz those last 2 years. I mean, those guys. I mean, they provided a lot. They really did. I mean, Mo Alley Cox's best year was with Jack Doyle, man.
Yep.
His best year was that year in 2020 with Uncle Phil. I mean, Mo Alley Cox had all those touchdowns earlier in the year. Jack Doyle was there for that. The guy wasn't selfish. The guy was doing all the dirty work, but of course he was helping. What has Mo Alley Cox done since Jack Doyle retired? He's done nothing. Literally nothing.
Yeah, and just to lastly close on that, remember Bernard Raymond pre-Jeff Saturday becoming the coach, and from Jeff Saturday's own mouth, he kind of prioritized that more than anything. So that direct influence definitely matters. So this one definitely went on longer than it was supposed to, but obviously a lot of good stuff. If you stuck out the entire way, you guys are absolute troopers. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, X, whatever you're going to call it. First 56 is the @ YouTube. You can catch all of our content as well as great other content on Sideline Sports. Give them a follow on Twitter as well. The Facebook page for us is still up and available. But obviously, on behalf of myself, Gulick, Marcus Knight here, Sideline Sports. This is First and 56 signing out. We will catch you guys on the next one.